if you have, oh, it's recording. If you have any questions along the way, can you type them out in the chat? And if we feel as though it could be answered in like live moment, we'll answer it. And if we feel as though it could be handled at the very end, then we'll wait. But that's where you can put your questions for now, for the presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So we are talking about strong arm dogs today. That's a flag we have on Time to Pet. I will explain what that means, and how we recommend you deal with it. Awesome. So, what is a quote unquote strong arm dog, as we call it in our system? So, these are dogs who pull with their full body weight. Doesn't necessarily matter their size. If they're pulling strong enough, it can still be difficult to manage. Although typically these dogs are larger breeds, labs, golden retrievers, large Bernedoodles, things like that. But a Frenchie can also do some damage at the end of a leash too. Yeah, so large, powerful dogs, dogs who are reactive and put a lot of power behind their lunge. Um, Overexcited dogs who also have a lot of leverage with their weight when they lunge, or dogs who are overstimulated. So there are smaller breed dogs who this isn't such an issue with, these reactive or overexcited behaviors. But if it's a strong dog who doesn't have any inhibition as far as the lunging goes, it can become a safety hazard. Cool. So why are they pulling at the end of the leash? Which is what we always want to ask ourselves when a dog is doing an undesirable behavior. So it could be reactivity. Maybe this is like they're lunging and barking at something. It can be they're just like so overstimulated that they're in their own world. Like they don't even know you're on the other end of the leash. They're just like, huh, walk, walk, walk. They could have a lot of energy and it's not particularly well managed. Maybe they are frustrated, haven't been socialized on the leash, haven't been taught how to walk on the leash properly, or they're like particularly excited about a destination. Like when they're walking to the dog park, they pull so hard and so strong because they just really want to get there. Okay, so a lot of this is basic, what we already talked to y'all about and encourage you to do, but just reiterating it here because it's particularly important with these strong arm dogs. So, make sure that equipment is properly fitted, the collar is secure or the harness is secure, whatever you're clipped to. Always check that the leash is clipped correctly. I've had times where I think I'm clipping to the front clip of a harness, but I accidentally clipped to the collar, which is not like my safe piece of walking equipment. So always triple check that before you leave. And then this is a requirement with all dogs, but particularly with these dogs, we want to make sure we use our safety equipment, the locking carabiners, connecting collars to harnesses, just to give you that extra backup in case they were to pull so hard they slip out of their equipment. All right, great. A couple reminders and a few new things on leash handling for these strong dogs. So making sure the leash is secure and wrapped around you, not just like in your hand. Because again, if a strong arm dog pulls and that leash is just in your palm and not wrapped anywhere else, it could sling right out of your hand, and now we have a lost dog. So make sure that's wrapped around your wrist or arm. I talk a little bit later about other options if the dog's really strong. Like I know sometimes people have issues with the pressure on their wrist or arm. So I have some options for that later. Make sure you have a firm grip in your hand as well as that wrap. And that also allows you to communicate with the dog through the leash with the techniques that we'll introduce later. With these dogs, if they're reactive, just be ready for reactions. Like that walk is like you are constantly scanning and looking for the thing that's going to trigger them so that you can try to avoid it. And then another one is really use your core. We don't really think about this in dog walking, but in any sort of weight training, it's really important for balance. So if a dog is pulling really strong, make sure you tighten your core And you can also kind of gently lean your weight back to help counterbalance them. And we don't want to like yank or anything, but if you just use your tight core and your tight torso to lean back and counterbalance that weight, it can help slow them down. All right, so with these dogs' rewards, identifying the individual dog's reward is going to be really important because you're going to need that to break their focus with the pulling and redirect them back to your side. So, most dogs are food motivated and food rewards will work. So with those, you keep their attention, redirect them back to your side. I'll go into those in more detail a little later. We always have to say this, make sure you check for food allergies on the time to pet profile before you give them your own treats. You can also ask the client to provide high value treats. The dog's really strong. They need a lot of treats to not pull through the whole walk. That's not necessarily something you want to provide 5 days a week, so the client can provide that for you. Another note with the food rewards is you want to feed smaller treats more frequently rather than larger treats less frequently because you want oh yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you can complete your thought and I'll chime in.
You want to give them a little dopamine spike is what we're trying to do when we reward them, and they get the same spike whether it's a tiny piece of treat or the whole treat. So always use those smaller bits.
Just wanted to chime in and say a lot of times we hear feedback as the treat doesn't work. The treat isn't getting that attention. And that makes complete sense because when you have a treat that is potentially being used frequently by the client inside the home, that's not going to capture the dog's attention outside of the home. You do need that higher value food reward. And so, what we will most likely have the client provide is something that makes the dog go goo goo gaga. So, cheese, chicken, deli meat, anything like that, that maybe the client hasn't tried outdoors. And so that is something the client has to experiment with, but that will be something that we would want you to maybe bring to the client attention, or, the managers will also say to you as well. You'll hear that a lot, but it does work when you experiment with the different types of food outdoors.
Yeah, and we can all brainstorm that together. If it's like, oh, this treat isn't working, that doesn't necessarily mean the dog is not food motivated. It just might be like little training treats that he's like, whatever. And we're competing with so much stimulation in the city, so we have to experiment. Just a note, there are some dogs who are not food motivated, like just as a personality trait. So again, that would be a situation where you would want to brainstorm with us and the client the client probably already knows, but to identify what that high value reward is to them. Maybe it's a certain toy that you can shake to get their attention back to your side or squeak. Maybe it's just praising them and giving them like an excited, like, cute puppy, come over here voice. And that's really, rewarding to them. So we can all figure those out together. All right, this is my first sort of what to do when this is happening. So my very scientific term for this is a slow walk to a stop. So if the dog, and in general with leash walking, for me personally, you'll see a lot of trainers who like train the dog or expect the dog to like walk by their side, literally parallel to them the entire time. But it's not realistic, especially in New York City. There's people, there's things we're trying. Sometimes the dog needs to be in front of us to get through foot traffic, etc. They want to smell something. There's so much to smell. We want to give them the ability to do that. It's enriching for them. So if a dog spends some time at the end of their leash, but then they're able to start to go back and forth between you and the end of the leash, that's decent walking behavior for me. It's when a dog is at the end of their leash, the leash is taut, and there's like no break in that tension where this behavior becomes, a safety risk and a problem. So if they're doing that, they're at the end of their leash for an extended period of time, really pulling you, just keep the leash taut, but slow down your walking gradually until you're at a complete stop. Give the dog a second, see if they look back to you on their own. Probably, let's say they're overstimulated, they won't. Then you do a redirection. So you would call their name and say, Frodo, come over here, and use the treat to kind of the reward to lure them back to you. Once they're back to your side, you say, okay, let's go, and you try again. So usually if you introduce this and are really consistent with it for a week or two, the dog starts to spend less time at the end of their leash. It won't necessarily curb the entire behavior, but they'll start to check in with you more or respond faster when you're slowing down. And sometimes this isn't realistic because you're trying to walk fast, you have to get somewhere. So we'll move on to other options. Okay, yes. So just giving some leash leverage options. So we provide you with a backup leash, but often the dog is providing their own leash. So potentially you could clip the dog's leash. Let's say they have a harness that has a front clip and a back clip. You could attach their leash to the front clip and our backup leash to the back clip, and then just have two leashes for kind of double control, right? Like double points of tension when they pull that communicates to them they're at the end of the leash and they need to slow down. And that can also give you extra security. Say one leash kind of gets pulled, there's another leash attached. Oh, wait, go back one. Oh, another option, we don't encourage this as a default, but you could wrap the leash around your waist if it's long enough and secure it with a carabiner, like wrap it through the handle and around the leash once it's around your waist. But you would also need to keep it in your hand, and not all leash lengths are ideal for this. But that's especially if you have wrist problems or arm problems with these kinds of dogs, the around the waist can help balance out the weight. Okay, cool. Another one is this is more of management, but just like find quieter routes, identify the least stimulating place for the dog to walk, get them there as safely and quickly as possible, and then let them kind of sniff to their heart's content, which will exhaust them. And then hopefully that will mean there's less pulling on the walk back. Good. Okay, so these are a few things that I actually teach clients when I'm working with them on leash walking and leash behavior, but I'm going to introduce them to you to have in your arsenal, to kind of build a relationship with the dog where they learn to engage with you on the walk instead of being in their own world at the end of the leash. So this is less about like trying to change the dog's overall behavior and more about using it as a tool to make your walking experience less intense. If they learn these patterns and these games with you, it will stick in the context of your walks and you'll have less of that pressure on the leash. Okay, so name recognition is simple. You're training the dog to respond to its name. The dog might already do this, but anything we train, we're also introducing in the context of the environment. So even if they know their name in the apartment, they might not know it outside when you're competing with other distractions. So you just say the dog's name. Let's say it's my dog who's sleeping next to me. I would say Odin. And then if he looks at me, makes eye contact, or I'll also, when I'm introducing this, accept just kind of a turn of the head to me, I say yes, and then I reward with a treat, or if it's another reward. If they don't look at you right away, so say I say Odin, and he's still looking forward, not looking at me, I'm going to make any sound. I'm going to not repeat the name, but any sound to get his attention. Here, here, here. And then as soon as he looks, I'll say yes and give him a treat. So that will give you a sort of in your back pocket redirection. If you teach this to the dog and practice it with the dog, it can help get their attention in those moments where they're pulling or reacting. Great. I think we have an example. Okay, yeah, you can't hear me, but I'm just calling his name and rewarding him when he looks at me. Simple. Awesome. So this is kind of a variation on that. I call it auto check-ins. So what I do with any dog who needs leash walking help on our walks, I am constantly looking for them to look at me. So this could be eye contact or just kind of looking in my direction. And I just say yes and feed a treat. whenever I get that eye contact. That just kind of teaches them to stay with you instead of just being so forward. And what's great about it is you're able to reward a behavior they're already offering instead of trying to like teach them something new. Um, Great. Yeah. And then eventually the dog starts to anticipate, like, oh, if I stick close by, I'll get more treats because I'm just going to stick by her and look up. So it can help in the long term. Yes. So that is when I would have rewarded that and a treat straight to the mouth. Yes. Nice job, Leroy, my little sweetie. He's kind of stressed. Awesome. Another one is touch. This is super easy. These are all like really simple little behaviors that won't take you much time to teach. So for touch, I just take two fingers. I can't do it on Zoom, but I hold them upside down. And what I want is the dog's nose to come into contact, to boop my fingers. So what's really important is that you don't move your hand towards the dog. We need the dog to travel the distance towards your hand. So yeah, you just say, it's always the verbal cue first, then the hand cue, and then try to encourage the behavior. If the dog doesn't touch right away, or you're trying to get them to learn how to do it, just kind of dance around them until they come into contact. And you want to start with really small distances. Don't, the dog is here and you're like, touch all the way over here. Start right next to their nose and you can even start with a treat in between your fingers, so that they naturally go to get the treat and make contact with your fingers the first couple of times. And that's how you can teach that.
Sorry, quick thing. I always find that whenever I do like the name recognition or like touch and I take a little video of it for the client's always like, "Oh my goodness, she's like training my dog." Like it's so simple, but
It's
I
very simple.
love it. And it
But
helps.
yeah, but it's also like a recall cue too that people will use. I've seen it worked for recall. So even though it's really basic, it it can really change their behavior over time. Oh, he's so cute. And you can see how close I am. I mean, even that, I think we had worked up to that point. Um, but I'm keeping it pretty close to his muzzle. I'm not expecting him to travel like 3 feet. Nice. Cool. So, say you have been walking this dog, and obviously a lot of these things are more helpful if you're repeat visiting the dog. If it's a one-off, just do your best to call their name, use the treat to redirect them back to you. But this is assuming you are building this relationship with this dog. You can do like a little warm-up. And I recommend this for reactive dogs too, even if they don't necessarily like pull really hard at the end of the leash. But just these simple things, practice them in the hallway or in the elevator, practice a few name recognition and rewards, a few touch, a few kind of U-turns with the leash in case you need to pivot. And that can help them get in the mindset for the walk where they're going to connect with you, and stick by your side instead of pulling at the end of their leash. And this is a good idea too for, I feel like, especially if it's a one-off dog that has a strong arm flag, right? You don't necessarily know how it's going to go. Um, do a little warm up, even if you haven't like taught them any of these things. Just do like a little training interaction warm up before you get outside so that a connection is established. And so that when you try to call their name or redirect them back to you, you're not working from nothing. Okay, great. So this is just prompting, if there's any safety concern or safety issue, don't try to muscle through that. If the walking gear is not suitable, let's say you're like walking down the hallway to the elevator and it looks like the harness is stretching and the dog's pulling and they're way too strong, contact manage them, let them know, management, let them know this is not a safe walking pairing. And same thing, if the dog is too strong, and you're just getting outside and it feels really unsafe, then go back inside and contact your managers.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we would rather you not provide the walk at all than have yourself and the dog in a situation that could end up in a very poor matter.
Okay, so just recapping, equipment is super important. Always make sure that it is secure. Always use your backup. Um, Use different leash wrapping techniques if your wrist and arm works great. If you need to wrap it around your waist for secure leverage, just make sure you still have your hand on that leash. We can't trust our waists to do all the work. Use your core to stabilize and counterbalance the dog's weight. Do a warm up with them before you get outside to encourage connection. Reward calm check ins with you or proximity. You can also just reward proximity if the dog is naturally right next to you, give them a treat, and that will encourage that behavior. Use the slow to stop to kind of train them out of being able to move forward with the pulling and notify managers if anything feels unsafe. Boom, boom, boom. That is our presentation. Do y'all have any questions or like specific scenarios you want to dive into?
I mean, that was very helpful. I feel like
Good.
I right now my current regulars are Rigby and Mila and Mason. Rigby's great. He just is such a strong arm puller when it
Mm,
comes only if there's food. He's so food motivated, and there every now and then I'm like, am I being pranked? Is there like pizza being dropped along this whole avenue on purpose, only where we're walking? So the quieter routes, what I wrote that down because that's something I do with Mila and Mason who quite literally need a quiet route
right.
or it's chaos.
Mhm.
Um, so it was a lot of, I mean, everything was very helpful, but definitely helpful for both them. And I'm also starting with a puppy in January.
Yes.
So
These will be really
like
helpful
halfway
for the
through you
puppy.
started triggering all these yes, exactly.
Wait.
Would love to like more than just establishing a I love you, you love me relationship with the puppy, like an actual these cues and
Yeah,
recall cues and stuff like that. Just good takeaways.
Does
Good good job.
does Rigby's owners provide you with any of high value food to redirect the attention towards you?
That was my other thing. I wrote down two things.
okay, good.
That and Rigby, they have high value treats, but right now I take just the low value ones,
Mhm.
um, like the little 3 calorie whatever in a bag. So I wrote a note to ask them. We have just 1 month left, and I'm so very sad. But still, for the month of
Yeah,
January, because even if it's like 30 minutes through the walk, he sees a piece of food, he doesn't get it. We keep going. We've recalled. He still is like just a little overstimulated, is how I would
totally.
describe it. Definitely just like on the lookout. This piece of pizza might
Where
reappear
it's
three
gonna
streets
come
down.
back up. And you
Yes,
can use like
exactly.
you can have both value treats, like both the low value and the high value, and use them in the
Oh,
different
that's a good
contexts.
point. I
So
like
like if
that
for
too
the
because
most part he's fine and you're just using the treats for like good job going potty or like he looks at you and you want to give him a treat, cool.
right,
But then in the moment where he's really pulling after that pizza, you pull out the high value and you're like, get over here, I got the good stuff. So you can use
that
it.
is fabulous.
Especially
Yes.
if he is food motivated, that's just going to work in your favor anyways. So,
Right. And we've gotten down to such a like I've taught how to wait at every crosswalk.
Wait.
He does it before I'm even ready. He's sat and looking up at me like, "We're waiting. We're
That's
waiting."
awesome. It's
And
amazing
he
what
does not move until I say, "Ready? Let's go." And then we cross the crosswalk. And it's he gets so many compliments because he starts to do it before I'm like ready and giving him something.
yeah, that's
Um,
awesome. It's
I
amazing what
I never
consistency
ever
will do.
considered oh yeah, exactly. And I never considered taking both the low and high value because if there's a piece of pizza and I all I have is this little 3 calorie
Yeah, you're not competing
treat,
with that.
He's going for the pizza. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. That's awesome.
Yes, that is brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Kyla, what about
And
you? Any
only 1 month with
specifics?
No, I usually run into they don't want to walk, so
Yeah.
I'm the one pulling them, apparently.
Yeah, they're pulling you in the opposite direction. We'll do that one. We'll do that one next.
They're
Um,
like, I want to go home, and I'm like, no, let's go
yeah,
out.
come
But I
woo,
want
on.
to go
we're
home.
having the best
Alexi.
time. Yeah, I do the same thing. Rigby, like I get there, he's awake, and then when I go to get the leash, suddenly he's in his bed. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you so super sleepy? You came up. Um,
It's
but
always
I did
amazes
just.
me when
I'm
I'm
sorry.
walking a dog and I'm like so impatient with them. Like say I'm not trying to group walk, I'm not
Mhm.
trying to get anywhere, but I'm like, come on, we need to be walking. And they're like perfectly content, like people walk, they did their business,
Yeah,
they're people
yes,
watching.
yes.
And then I'll be like, well, it's their time. Um, but no, you
Yeah,
gotta
I've
get them somewhere to go
definitely
to the bathroom.
gotten to that concept throughout these fasts. I think Kyla and I both started at the same time, trained on the same day.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but I just recently, like maybe 2, 3 weeks ago, started using treats with Mila and Mason, provided by Omaha, the owner.
Nice.
Whoo, game changer, because
Yep.
they need distraction, and it is wild how it works every single time. Unless, I mean, we haven't really encountered a dog that close because I do try to do quieter routes with them,
Yeah, good
but
job.
if there's a dog, like quite literally, like you can barely make them out in the distance, they'll still start going crazy. If we do look, I hold the treat right by my eyes. They keep their eyes right on me, and it's mostly like if one starts, the other starts. So if I can keep one on me, the other looks at me
Yeah, they'll look
inherently
back.
with those two. Those two are funny.
That's awesome.
They give everyone a headache, but I'm obsessed with them.
I'm so glad they've come such a long way with you.
They have made a lot of progress, like me and without me. I'm very proud of their progress. So this
Good.
was
So
great. I love this. I
great.
These are monthly, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then so we did the resource guarding one last month. If you didn't watch that, I highly, highly recommend you watch the recording of that one. It's like it's not something you're gonna come into contact with every day, but if you do come into contact with a difficult or severe case, having reviewed that presentation from last month's will come in very much handy.
Kyla, if you have specific questions that you want us to address next month regarding like the stopping behavior on walks or just like anything else that you want us to address, feel free to send that our way and then we'll talk about that in the presentation next month.
Yeah, we can like
I'll,
curate
I'll
it.
think of, I'll think of some. Think of it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a
Lots.
very uh stubborn behavior. I like I'm on dogs, but then I'm like, well,
It is, but sometimes I'm just kind of like let's say with Lucille, she does her
Mm-hmm.
pee and her poop, and then I'm just like, all right, you just want to sit? Okay, we'll just stand.
We will just enjoy the fresh air, and it's
It's
Just
like
like
stand and poop.
10
maddening
degrees
for some
outside.
reason.
Yeah. And her owners know it. That's what's even funny. They're just like, well, she's just like standing there. I'm like, yeah, did she pee at least?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They're like, so
Like,
it's like they
okay,
know.
like 2 months ago, yeah, maybe 2 months ago, Rigby just decided to stop pooping on our second walk. Consistent poop every time, every walk. And then suddenly he just was like, no, I'm not actually. I no longer poop at this time of day. I'm
it's
like,
always the
Rigby,
walkers.
what are we doing? It
I used
is.
to
I'm like, and I'll be like, this is such a great spot. Poop.
do
I'll even
it.
pick it up for you. I would love to pick it up for you. It would be so great. And he's just like,
I don't know why I always put so much pressure on myself as a dog walker to like have the dogs poop. I'm like, Marin, you can't make a dog poop.
I think it's because it's the sun sets at 4:30, and that's when I finish the walk. So I'm like, it's nighttime.
Oh
This dog
yeah.
has to be pooped and ready for bed. And they have two babies and Rigby, and
Yeah.
they like, if anything, I would just like to help you poop your dog.
Help you poop your dog. Amazing. Well, thank you all for joining us.
Thank
Let
you.
me
Yes, thank
stop
you.
recording.